Hi guys, so today I've got a different kind of video for you today. It's not actually about Star Wars, it's kind of about my second great love, or maybe my first great love, Thundercats. If you followed me for a while, you'll know that like my big thing is lightsaber nunchucks, or just nunchucks in general. I have always had a thing for nunchucks. I keep nunchucks usually hanging up right off to the side of my videos, usually just off screen. Nunchucks have always been a thing of mine, and most, like if I ever play like an MMO, or when I used to play EverQuest, my characters were usually always inspired by Panthro. Panthro has always been my favorite Thundercats, so lifelong Thundercats fan. And while I'm certainly more of a Star Wars fan than a Thundercat fan, a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's so much more media, merchandise, cultural availability of Star Wars than of Thundercats. There's very, very little Thundercats out there to kind of bathe in and really take it all in, compared to how much there is out there for Star Wars. So the news related to Thundercats is that Cartoon Network is bringing back, basically rebooting Thundercats. And so my initial reactions to this was awesome, because they tried it in 2011 and it didn't work. I watched the 2011 reboot. It wasn't what I really wanted. It wasn't the art style I was going for. It wasn't the Thundercats. And my biggest problem with this 2011 reboot was that they were they were kind of reimagined Thundercats. Like everything was slightly different. Like the relationships were different, the mission was different, the planet was different. Everything about this world, like the setting, it was like a whole new alternate dimension where everything was different. And that wasn't what I wanted. But I still watched it anyway, because it was Thundercats, and it wasn't my Thundercats. It was a little bit different, but I came to terms with that, and I watched it, and it was enjoyable. It wasn't my favorite show, but it was something. But it was on all these weird time slots, and it was hard to keep track of it. But it ended up getting canceled. And as a Thundercats fan, I've always been a Thundercats fan. It was like, was that our last chance to get Thundercats? So they're rebooting Thundercats, and my first reaction was awesome, but until I saw this. It's called Thundercats Roar, and it looks like a bad April Fool's joke to me. That's what I thought when I saw this. The art style is very, very different than anything I could have even imagined for Thundercats, and I almost find it offensive, and I'm going to tell you why. But there's two parts to this. There's my first reaction, and then there's the okay, let's sleep on it and come back and visit it after a day or two reaction. So my first reaction was a whole plethora of emotion. It's somewhere between being offended and being hurt and being confused and wondering like, why would they, the fans of Thundercats are these grown men in their 30s or 40s who maybe grew up with Thundercats and have this nostalgic memory of Thundercats. Why are they doing this? This looks like it's targeting, young children. It's either going to completely miss with these young children or just succeed to really, really piss off adults, and myself included. So I just couldn't imagine why. I really thought this was a joke. I thought it was just, oh, we just got you there. It's because, the Thundercats were always serious and tough and action, and, it was this mix of all these good, noble qualities. And I particularly liked Panthro because of the fact that he was the strongest Thundercat. He was also the mechanic, but he was a genius too. And he was like all these different great qualities that you didn't think, at least in the 80s, you didn't think were going to mesh. If somebody was super, super strong, there was a stereotype that they had to be stupid also. And so, Panthro broke through a lot of that stuff for me. Lion-O was also strong, but he was this leader, but he was still growing, so he had to learn to humble himself. So it was this journey with him. All of the Thundercats had their different things. Like Chitara didn't do a whole lot for I guess women's issues in the 80s and making equality more representation wise there, mostly because they weren't there yet. But she was still awesome. She was still badass. She still could hang just as well as everybody else, and she was one of the superstars. Wily Kit and Wily Cat were kind of like the B team, but they were there kind of to teach, mentoring, and the team itself was very well rounded, and it also taught a lesson. And it was a great show for so many reasons. But it used the show as a platform to teach lessons. But now it seems like this show that I have grown to love and it has helped raise me is being turned into this Teen Titans Go style animation where it's all about jokes and gross things, and it's I imagine there's going to be an episode where Lionel has diarrhea and everybody's making poopy and fart jokes, and Thundercats sucking on baby bottles and being like, me so hungry, like the Jar Jar Binks method is being applied to Thundercats, and initially it set me off. I was in a bad mood the whole first day. I actually got pretty depressed, and I ate a whole tub of ice cream and went to sleep. And and I really shouldn't. I recognize that at the same time. I'm like, well, it's just a cartoon, right? Why should if I don't like it, why don't I just ignore it? So I had the rational side of my brain with the emotional side of my brain were going at it like crazy for the first 24 hours. And so now I'm going to come up to the part where I try to be rational about how I feel about this complete mockery of my childhood. First off, I'm going to talk about the good things about this, now that I've had a chance to cool down. And this is also to Cartoon Network. So if you guys are watching, here are some interesting points. First off, I like that this is in the original Thundercats setting. You're not trying to tell a whole new, like, oh, well, here's Thundercats. There's actually 12 of them, and their names are totally different. You're actually keeping this with the original costumes, even though it's in a different art style, the original setting with Third Earth, the original kind of plot. And that's a good place to start, because that's the nostalgia. And for two, it's good just that we're getting Thundercats back in the media again, because a big part of me is just happy to see Thundercats showing up in search engines more and it being a hashtag. It's not the right Thundercats, but it at least is Thundercats. So that's about all I can say as far as the good. I don't know if I'll actually watch this, even after calming down and kind of getting over it. I don't know if I can bring myself to watch it. I don't know if emotionally I'll be able to handle it, because Thundercats was huge to me growing up. As a kid, about 6 or 7 years old, I would come home from school every day and watch Thundercats. And I grew up in an attic, so I had a pretty lousy upbringing when I was very young. So Thundercats was like maybe the one thing I looked forward to every day. I also watched He-Man a little bit, but Thundercats was number one. Number one. No matter what was going on in my life, I had Thundercats every day, or every weekday or so. So it was very, very important to me. Like, I get emotional about how much I like Thundercats. There's just not very much of it out there. So just to look at this, my problem with this new art style is the fear that it's going to fail miserably, because I don't think, any adult Thundercat fan is going to be okay with this. Here's the thing, with the 2011 reboot, with it failing miserably, a lot of people, myself included, feel like, this was our last chance. We're not going to get any more Thundercats than this. And I feel like now that we've somehow managed to be given one more chance to bring Thundercats back, and it looks like this, it's just going to fail again. So not only is this our last chance being thrown away, but it feels like this our last chance is not only being thrown away, but they're putting the final nail in the coffin. So now when people like me campaign for, hey, somebody, will you make a Thundercats movie? Some executive is going to be like, we tried that twice and it failed miserably. And we feel like, a lot of us feel like, no, you didn't try it at all. You tried something else. You didn't try Thundercats. The winning formula is the 80s formula. Or something at least very close to it. Understand you're going to have to change the animation. You're not going to be able to find those exact same artists to draw it exactly the same way. Understand you're going to want to do something slightly different, because you don't want to just rebroadcast the exact same episodes. However, keeping close to that original formula and applying a few new things, feels like that would be more acceptable to a lot of the adult fans. but I feel like maybe this is just meant to be the start of something better. So here's what I would like from Cartoon Network is I would like for them to at least acknowledge that what their adult fans want. And hopefully if this show is a success and it does broadcast it to children and it is successful with children, that it doesn't stop here. Keep Thundercats going. Keep Thundercats going in multiple formats. And the example I would give is look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For me, as a child of the 80s, my first Ninja Turtles was the cartoon in the 80s, and that's my Ninja Turtles. All the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'm really not into. I'm not into the new art styles. I'm not into the silly goofiness of it all. Like, the perfect Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for me was that first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It was dark, it was gritty, it had action, had a little bit of humor because some of them, like Michelangelo, was a little bit humorous, right? You had a little bit of humor, but like they cursed in that movie, and I was like, oh my gosh! Like, was the first curse word I was allowed to hear on screen. I almost wet my pants how I was so excited when I watched this movie for the first time as like a 9-year-old or something. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So that's my Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles of today are different, but the cool thing about it is having Ninja Turtles in the forefront allows Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as an IP to be more successful, more available, more, you know, for a company, like if somebody wants to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game, they don't ask twice about it. They say, sure, go ahead, make a Ninja Turtles video game. Somebody wants to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles board game, has a good chance of getting picked up. There's lots of tabletop options for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's lots of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles merchandise available. Now, look at Thundercats. We don't have that problem, right? Mattel was making some Thundercats figures. I've got Panthro and Lion-O over here. I've got Wile E. Kit and Wile E. Cat, but we never got the full. Every time they've tried to start making some Thundercats merchandise, they failed halfway through because the IP isn't as recognizable. That's like one of the biggest problems I have is I want my classic 80s Thundercats. And maybe this is a way to get those at least more recognizable and have some companies be willing to take a chance with Thundercats. I want a full line. I have an incomplete line of Thundercats. They used to do an 8-inch, a slightly taller series of Thundercats. They only made Tigra and Lion-O. They never made Panthro. I've got to have Panthro. So I was more interested to buy the available Mattel ones just because at least they had Panthro. I still don't have Chitara and Tigra. Don't know if we're ever going to get those. I mean, we hope so because as different companies have picked up the lines, and you know, we don't know what they're going to do, what the plans are. But from a merchandise perspective, maybe this is a way for me to eventually get Thundercats merchandise. What I'm fearful of is that maybe I'm only going to get this new Thundercats Roar merchandise, which is not great. So, well, I mean, assuming the art style is not great. So that's really the problem here, and I'm really hoping that this will lead towards Thundercats being more of a household name, and maybe we'll see, you know, CMON or FFG or some, you know, company make a really nice Thundercats miniatures tabletop game. Maybe we'll see, you know, a really cool Thundercats video game. Maybe we'll see, you know, new lines of Thundercats shirts, posters, action figures, incorporating multiple styles of Thundercats, and my 80s classic being included in that. It's hard. There's not a whole lot of Thundercats. There's a little bit of Thundercats merchandise out there, but the quality is iffy. And another thing that Cartoon Network, if you have the ability with between you guys and Warner Brothers or whoever is the magic key holder, can you please release the soundtrack to the original Thundercats? That's full of nostalgia. It's always been locked away, and the best we've ever been able to do is to try to splice bits and pieces out of the episodes, and some people have, even on YouTube, have created their own versions of it with like synthesizers and stuff. Could you just release the soundtrack? I would love that. A lot of fans, there's been all kinds of online petitions for it. That would go a long way towards, you know, if you release the soundtrack, I will go ahead and watch Thundercats Roar and take the offense, because at least you will have shown a gesture of good faith that you care about adult fans as well. But that's what I got for you guys today. Thundercats Roar. Not promising I'm going to watch it, but you know, maybe it'll maybe it'll lead to bigger and better things. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. There is still another round of the giveaway going on right now, so if you'd like to win a $20 Cool Stuff gift card to get a gaming expansion of your choice, all you have to do is become a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out Crabbok.com and say hi on my Discord. Submit your best paint jobs over in Discord so I can showcase those. We've had a couple being submitted already, so it's always great to see more minis being painted. It doesn't even have to be for Star Wars Legion. It can be for X-Wing or Armada or any other game you want. Because we're going to try and do like weekly or monthly painting showcases depending on how many submissions we get. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.